Namaste. Welcome to World Wellness Weekend. I'm Sarada from Organic India, naturopath, yogi, and mum. It's my pleasure to connect with the beautiful Peninsula Hot Springs community. I'm calling in from Wanyi country in northern Queensland, and I pay my respects to the traditional custodians of this land. In this session, I'm going to share some of my favourite longevity practices from Ayurveda, India's oldest traditional medicine system and the oldest traditional medicine system in the world. These are simple things that, when practiced consistently and regularly over time, can greatly impact our longevity. And they can be really easily incorporated into a daily routine. Hopefully you have a cup of Tulsi in hand or a cup of herbal tea, because firstly, I'm going to pair my favourite of these longevity practices, my yoga practice and my Tulsi. So if you could take a really comfortable seat and possibly even your yoga mat if you like. Some mornings just after waking, I'll make a cup of Tulsi and I'll take it to my yoga mat. And as the sun is rising and the day is beginning, I'll move through a few rounds of sun salutations or Surya Namaskar while my Tulsi steeps. And then I'll add in some other postures while I sip and stretch and breathe and connect with myself. Another golden moment for combining yoga and Tulsi is in the evening, mixing spinal twists and hip opening stretches and some really beautiful gentle breath work, even if it's just lying out on the living room floor while sipping some Tulsi sleep or Tulsi honey chamomile. What I would like to share now is an example of a simple self-care ritual that you could practice on your yoga mat with your cup of Tulsi any time of the day, such as your tea break. So sitting really comfortably, feeling the sit bones resting in a really grounded way and the spine lengthening up out of your seat. Feel your shoulders relax back and down and allow your eyes to softly close. Turning your attention inwards, see if you can follow the thread of your breath and notice how the natural flow of your breath is. And slowly making little changes to your breath to make sure it is as deep and complete as it can be to nourish every cell in your body. So pushing a little bit slightly into the end of each breath, the end of the exhalation, the end of the inhalation, nudging into the edges of the breath to expand into the lungs and to empty as much as you can at the end of the exhalation. This will really help massage the lungs and revitalize the lungs with fresh oxygen and to eliminate carbon dioxide. Pausing at the top of the in-breath for a little space and at the bottom of the out-breath also for a little space will allow you to slow down Our breath is our invitation into the present moment. It helps us connect with here and now. Once you have a nourishing breath established, turn your attention to your physical body and notice some of the feelings and sensations in your physical body, such as how comfortable are you sitting in this simple seated position, and are you holding any tension? And if there is a little tension, is it tension that you can breathe or stretch through? Is it something you can take a little side bend and breathe into? Is it something that you can twist and breathe into? Take a little movement. Do any natural stretching and moving that you feel inspired to do. And notice also, when you're noticing where there's tension, notice where there's freedom as well. My shoulders feel quite relaxed today, or perhaps my shoulders feel really tense today, and try some breathing and some stretching. Following a little physical check-in. With eyes open or closed, closed can be helpful. See if you can notice the train of thoughts, some of the themes of thoughts, observing what's on your mind. Keep the thread of the breath flowing so that you're constantly invited to be present. Noticing only what thoughts are here now and allowing them to float across your mind just like clouds float across the sky. Acknowledge these thoughts with a healthy sense of detachment. So trying not to get caught up in the thinking or carried off by the thoughts. And keep your breath flowing. We'll do the same thing now with our emotions and checking in with our heart. So keep that beautiful thread of breath. Take your attention to your heart, maybe even take your hand to your heart. See if you can notice what emotions are residing in your heart in this present time, and label them if that is helpful to you. Notice and try to accept the often complex and unique mixture of emotions that can coexist in the heart. And keep your thread of breath flowing. This simple 4-step check-in can be done sitting in a seat or on your yoga mat or on the living room floor while sipping a warm mug of Tulsi for as little as 10 minutes. For a longer self-care practice just like this one, please look at my video from last year's World Wellness Weekend on Peninsula Hot Springs IGTV, and that will take you through a more elaborate version of this simple check-in so that you have a good connection with a really supportive self-care practice that can be done in your tea break or as the sun is rising or sitting by the fire if it's really cold. The reason I love Tulsi and yoga so much, and I feel as they're like two peas in a pod, they go hand in hand because they share similar benefits. Tulsi and yoga both support a healthy response to stress. They help us adapt and adjust in times of stress. And they also help our immune system stay strong. Tulsi and yoga both help us achieve good quality sleep. They set us up for good sleep and also nourish many of our organs. So supporting a healthy detoxification process within our body. And both Tulsi and yoga provide all-round well-being for our minds, for our bodies, and for our spirits. In fact, Tulsi is often regarded as liquid yoga. In Sanskrit, the meaning of the word Tulsi is Tula, to balance, and Si, the scales. Tulasi, Tulasi, Tulsi. This is a balancing and centering longevity herb. So just like yoga helps to bring balance and centering to us, Tulsi is a really intelligent and powerful plant. It's double acting in that it will seek out imbalances in our bodies and then set out to correct those, which as a Western medical herbalist, I find quite remarkable. So I suggest taking your Tulsi to your yoga mat for as little as 20 minutes daily, wherever it fits into your routine. This could be first thing in the morning, last thing before bed, or your tea break. And noticing the compounding effect of this tiny little section of your day can have on your well-being over time. These are longevity supporting practices. So the regularity and consistency is key for nourishment and toning and purification of the body and the mind and helping our emotional well-being. And for those folks who are in lockdown, again, this simple practice could really be used more than once a day. So whenever you feel like you could do with a little break, take to the yoga mat, maybe leave it rolled out somewhere in your home, or a little sheepskin, a little meditation spot somewhere in your home where you can simply take a cup of tea, do a few simple stretches while you nourish your body and your mind with your breath, nourish your heart with your breath. Some of the other daily practices that stem from Ayurveda are grounded in the practice of rhythm, and establishing good daily rhythms are really beneficial for our well-being. Connecting back to the basis of Ayurveda, which connects us with the rhythms of nature. So simple things like waking at a regular time each day, somewhere around sunrise ideally, or at least being consistent. Eating regular meals at regular time spots. So if you like to breakfast at 7 a.m., trying to breakfast around 7 a.m. or breakfasting when you're hungry consistently. Making your main meal the lunchtime, the midday meal, and combining that with a nice spoonful of ghee, which can be really nourishing for our ojas or our longevity. Making exercise a regular practice and exercising moderately and consistently. If you like to take a morning walk, try to be consistent with that, or an evening stroll, or a gentle walk after your main meal. Trying to be consistent with that, and the same with going to sleep of an evening. So eating early in the evening and approximately 3 hours later going to bed is the Ayurvedic suggestion. But at least having a bedtime ritual and going to bed at similar times All of these are foundations for wellness in Ayurveda, and they send a specific signal to the body and the mind about what is required and when, which systems and functions should be performing well right now. Our bodies and our minds learn to depend on this regularity, which supports optimum functioning of every single cell in our body and all of our organs and systems and vital processes. I'm going to talk a little bit more now about establishing a routine for good sleep, since good quality sleep is one of those absolute foundations for everything from our energy and our vitality to our mood, to our immunity, to our stress levels, to the way we relate to ourselves and others and the planet around us. And we all know how good it is to wake from a deeply rejuvenative sleep. So I'm going to share some of the things that I and many other people have found helpful when struggling to get good sleep, in the hope that you'll find some gems here to also realize the fullness of that beautiful night's sleep. One of the things that can be done to support a good night's sleep is to set up an evening bedtime ritual. So this might start about an hour before going to bed, or it might be half an hour before, but once again, consistency of that rhythm is key. Try turning the lights down low, burning low candles and using side lamps, because these signal to the eyes that it's evening time. Using bright lights will wake us up and kind of mislead us to think that it's still daytime. Switching off all devices, putting away phones, putting away screens. That nightly digital detox is really important for quietening the mind. Make a cup of Tulsi sleep or any of the non-caffeinated Tulsi teas, since Tulsi in and of itself can help nourish the nervous system and help us to calm our mind. And sip that as you go about the rest of your bedtime routine. So this might be taking a warm bath, maybe using some magnesium salts, and soaking in the bath, sipping some of your Tulsi. Try alternating for those of you who really find that you've got a lot of head energy. Try alternating between a hot bath and a cold shower, just like bathing at the hot springs. So do this a couple of times, maybe at least twice, alternating between hot bath and cold shower. And if you can, finish on that cold shower. This really helps to strip our energy field of any kind of debris. We do have an auric field, and it really does help us move out of our body and move out of our head rather, and be in our body. Burning lavender essential oil, bathing in lavender essential oil, inhaling lavender essential oil on a tissue, maybe putting that beside your pillow as you're reading a book in bed, or beside your yoga mat as you are lying on it, doing some gentle twists and some hip openers lying on your back. These are some of my favorite things to do when getting ready for bed. Trying some of those gentle yoga twists. I love to do this on my lounge room floor, lying on my back. I'll do some beautiful twists from side to side. I'll do some gentle hip opening stretches and maybe some leg raises and leg stretches. So I'm lying down and really nourishing myself with some gentle yoga postures, maybe some quiet sitting and breathing, and perhaps a little journaling here. Once again, if the head's still busy, emptying whatever's on your mind. Another beautiful practice from Ayurveda to do before hopping into bed is to massage your feet with some warm Ayurvedic oil or some warmed, cold, pressed black sesame oil. Try doing this a few nights in a row. Cover your feet with old socks because you don't want to put the oil on your bed linen, and it can stain. But the feet are so absorbent; they will absorb the nourishment and the grounded energy that this beautiful oil can provide. Hopping into bed with a good book, not the Kindle, an actual novel, something not too dramatic, but something really beautiful to read before bed. All of these things signal to the body it's time to prepare to switch off. It's time to prepare for the nightly rhythm of sleep. One of the other practices I really want to share, which has been very popular and I think for very good reason, is super effective and very simple, is intermittent fasting. And this can be practiced in many different ways. And the way I find most accessible is to eat an early dinner just after sunset with my family, with my kids, and then to not eat again until a late-ish breakfast. So this way, my digestive system gets a complete rest from food for at least 12 to 14, sometimes 16 hours overnight. So finding the sweet spot for you might be 12 hours at first and over time extending to 14. This can really, really positively impact so many aspects of well-being, from sleep quality to metabolism, to digestion and regular elimination, to energy levels, clarity of mind, clarity of thought. And this is something that you can do with a little help from Tulsi. So eating that early meal, if you do find you're a little bit peckish before going to bed, that evening cup of Tulsi sleep, or Tulsi honey chamomile, or a little Tulsi peppermint after dinner can really help just make sure you're feeling satisfied after that evening meal and tide you over to morning with that intermittent fast. So Tulsi really is the perfect accompaniment to many of these wellness practices, and something that can really support you in establishing these daily rhythms, particularly if you find it hard to sustain a new habit or establish and sustain a new habit. Since it's springtime, there's a natural sense of renewal in the air, and the liver's most active in springtime. There's a general longing in the body to lighten our load a bit, to get out, take some vigorous walks and do a little exercise and eat well, perhaps eat a few more vegetables, a bit more fruit, a little less kind of heavy food. Try incorporating Tulsi, this amazing healing herb, into your day and possibly into some of the rhythms that I mentioned earlier, such as when you get out of bed, going straight to the kettle, boiling the kettle, making up a cup of Tulsi. Giving yourself something to do immediately as you're getting out of bed can be a good thing to do if you struggle to get out of bed in the morning. Just having that first focal point, and then going to the mat, as I suggested earlier, taking a Tulsi to the yoga mat, sipping and stretching, sipping and breathing. As your Tulsi steeps, try some of those beautiful flow sequences, such as Surya Namaskar, salute to the sun, or even just your cat stretches and dog stretches. Taking your Tulsi to your tea break, seeing if you can try that little check-in, that self-care ritual of checking in with body, mind, emotions, heart, staying connected with your breath, inviting your breath to really lead you into the present moment. That's a really handy practice to have and can be honed over time. Popping some Tulsi into your keep cup or your flask when taking a daily walk. It's a great way to stay hydrated, but also a great way to incorporate that extra bag of herbs and get that into your body, get that nourishment into your body, especially helpful if you're really busy and you spend a bit of time on the run. While making your main meal, Tulsi is a great healthy choice, particularly if you are wanting to minimize alcohol or reduce your daily caffeine intake. Sipping Tulsi as you prepare your meal, maybe a cup of Tulsi tummy sipping during your meal, or a cup of Tulsi peppermint after your meal. These are really lovely digestive supporting blends to help you digest and enjoy your meal. And as I mentioned, Tulsi is the perfect accompaniment to intermittent fasting, particularly if you're struggling, you're wanting to practice the intermittent fast but feeling peckish. And it's sleep time as part of your sleep routine, as I mentioned earlier. The most important thing is establishing the regular well-being habits that work for you and that you feel you can sustain and that your body-mind complex can depend on. You might decide to work on one at a time, for example, getting up around the same time daily, or going to bed at a similar time each evening and unplugging from screens. That in and of itself is quite a practice that takes self-discipline. For so many folks along the East Coast in lockdown, you can really lean on a well-established daily routine to help get you through this challenging time. The beauty of the Ayurvedic tradition is that it is grounded in these rhythms, and we see these rhythms morning, noon and night. And we're also drawing on the rhythms of nature, of the sunrise, of sunset, taking a cup of tea to watch the sunrise or to sit and watch the sunset can really top up our well-being, lift our heart and help us through if we're feeling a bit flat or a bit stuck. For more inspiration, please go to the link provided to download your free Tulsi and Yoga ebook from Organic India. That contains 23 basic yoga postures paired with different Tulsi blends to sip while you stretch. And if you're trying to establish a yoga practice, this can be really handy to have a little guidebook by your side. As the session comes to a close, I'd like to invite you to set a clear intention for this spring to ask yourself, what is it that you would like to take away from this moment going forward, and make a strong intention and put a little effort behind diligently working towards realizing that intention. Perhaps it's writing it on a post-it note and popping that on the fridge and the bathroom mirror and a couple of door handles, just so that you have that regular reminder, setting a reminder on your phone, doing what it takes, maybe a couple of cues, such as a box of Tulsi on the kitchen bench, or putting the yoga mat out and leaving it out in a dedicated place, as I mentioned before. Some of these cues will help remind you and support you to realize the fullness of that intention that you're setting right now. Thank you so much for joining me. I wish you the most beautiful experience of well-being and peace and joy, great night's sleep, wonderful digestion, balance in body, mind, spirit. Namaste.